Good afternoon and welcome for everyone for this Human Variations eAF Q&A clinic. So we are organizing these eAF clinics for you to ask any questions that you may have with regards to the use of the new web-based form or the system. Just to make this a very interactive, we have we are using Slido. My colleague Christina will explain how to ask questions using the Slido, and we can then get started.
Thank you very much, Christina. So yes, first of all, that as anticipated, the session is being recorded and it will be made available through the EMA corporate website and YouTube channel. We will use Slido in order to collect your questions. If you participated to previous clinics, you know that we have this code that is active. So we will start with a couple of questions that we had left from the previous Q&A. You can decide to join Slido also anonymously if you would like. And it's a tool that is very easy to use. So you can join via browser at slido.com or via mobile phone if you scan the QR you see here. And the code for this event is #2874178. You can decide to ask any questions related to the eAF, but you can also decide to upvote questions from other participants that you want to hear answer, because we will address the questions live based on their popularity, let's say. So the most voted ones will be addressed first. Okay, so I will now switch to the Slido directly so that we can look at the questions received so far. Okay, so we have, oops, sorry. Okay, we have as a first question, can you confirm that the new PLM eAF forms are used? The exported PDF versioning format is identical to the one generated with the current PDF?
Yes, so both forms are, of course, based on the NTA form. So they are, I would say, more or less identical. They look very similar. There may be some minor differences in certain fields. And for example, the annexes, we have added some additional annexes into the web-based version, but they are basically identical, and there should be no difference in which form you use.
Thank you, Christina. Next question is there a possibility to get an overview of all data used in the MAH specific view for your own products, including manufacturers, or will the data only be revealed when used?
So for the time being, in the eAF and in the PLM portal per se, there is no overview of all the data used. So this is something that is currently not available through the PLM portal user interface. If you have selected certain products and you export the PDF, you will be able to find the attached XML, and from the XML attachment in the PDF, you can find information that we currently hold in our internal database, SciMed. For example, some information on manufacturers. However, we are working with the product UI, on the product UI, which will provide further information. So I hand over to my colleague Marcos, who can maybe give a little bit more information on the upcoming features in the product UI.
Yes, so we are working right now on the product UI, and we are working actually on the view product information. For the moment, we have just started working on that, but yes, the idea is that during this year we will release the PMS product UI, where you will be able to see the information that we have in PMS in a structured way with the different sections, etc. But as explained by Christina, for the moment, the only way to see the data is the one that she has explained. yeah, we are working on the product UI, and we hope to be able to release it as soon as possible.
Thank you very much for contributing, Marcus. Okay, then we have questions. So this was also coming from the previous clinic, and we did not have time to address. So this user in particular seems to have any issues with access management. So the password seems incorrect. But maybe Joao, you can suggest how to react in this situation.
Yes, indeed. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, if the message is that password is incorrect, possibly there is a small mistake or typo in the password or the username. So you can reset your password in the EMA account management portal, register.ema.europa.eu. It's quite straightforward to do it. Otherwise, please make sure that you're trying to access the correct URL of the PLM portal. So some people worked with us on the user acceptance testing, and maybe they are still using the old link or the link that is used for the user acceptance testing. The production URL is plm-portal.ema.europa.eu. Yeah, otherwise, if you still face any issue, I would suggest that you contact us via service desk with some screenshots, possibly also the username, and we have a closer look.
Thank you very much, Joao. Do we have to make a new eAF for every submission, or is it possible to reopen an already finalized form, change the data, and submit? For example, if we receive validation issues and need to submit validation sequence. Christina, can you take this question, please?
Sure. So indeed, so we have different suggestions for different scenarios. So indeed, it is possible to reopen already finalized form. So the finalized forms move into the completed tab in the PLM portal. When you go to the PLM portal you're in that completed tab, in the right-hand side, there's a small arrow. If you click that arrow, it extends options, and in there you can say move edit the form. So it moves it back to the drafts, and you can continue editing that form. And that is exactly what you should do if you receive validation issues and you need to edit the form. So in those cases, we strongly recommend that you do not create a new form, but you move the form back to the drafts and you edit the already submitted form, so that that would ensure that you don't make any other changes and there are suddenly no other issues, validation issues raised, because you may inadvertently create it slightly differently, and then that would lead into confusion. So we strongly recommend that you indeed, in cases of validation issues, you always re-edit the same previously submitted form. However, if you want to submit a new form for a new procedure, again, then we strongly recommend against of reopening a previously submitted form. But in case when a new procedure starts, always start a fresh new form, even though it would be very similar to the previously created. Because again, what if you need to go back to the previous form and edit for any reason, then that may again lead into issues. So for new procedures, always start a new form. For validation issues, or if any other further edits are required during ongoing procedure, please edit the form that you initially submitted.
Thank you, Christina. Selected medicinal packages are not loading. If I exit, I lose everything. Wondering if I have to create two scopes, one for changes in OMS and another scope for don't have OMS changes. Christina, can you take this?
Sure. So as this is a public session, I could, of course, open that form from the back end, but perhaps it's not ideal to share that with everybody. I can certainly have a look at that that particular case outside this meeting, and if you would like to send further details, for example via email, so or your contact details via email, so I can come back to you. But we have certain products indeed where it may take a while before the medicinal packages are loading. It could be that there's something wrong with that specific product why they're not loading. So I would suggest that in this particular case, it would be good to have a more detailed look into the product and the product details, what we have available. Indeed, you shouldn't lose everything, so that if you have already selected the products and you have waited for some time, you've saved, and in the very first step in the product selection, you can see that, let's say, 2 out of 2 packages are selected. At that point, you should be able to select the packages. It depends on your changes, whether how many scopes you need to create. So from the procedural point of view, you shouldn't do anything different than you would do today in the PDF, in the interactive PDF. So if you need to have 2 scopes, add 2 scopes. If you only need 1 scope, so if you were using the interactive PDF and you would only select 1 scope, please don't select more, because that may impact the fees. But you can indicate changes in OMS and other changes in just one bit of change. So as this is quite a specific case, let me see if I can share an example or show in an example where this can be done. Just one moment, I'll share my screen in a minute. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. So in here, in present and proposed changes. So for example, in this particular form that I have created here, I have selected some products and I have selected 3 scopes. So for example, if I need to enter details of the change in the present and proposed fields, just the textual changes, you would do that here. And then if you need to indicate the changes in OMS, you can do that here. So you don't need to separate them if you don't want to. So you can include into the same form changes in the free text fields and in OMS. You will select your organizations, the present organization and a proposed organization, just selecting anything here, and then you would save. And then in the next step, where you would select the scopes and medicinal products. So if you have just 1 scope, you would select that scope. And if this that selected scope impacts, let's imagine you have 4 medicinal products, and these were all the same. So and it impacts all the presentations. So all pack sizes are impacted. You would select them all and save. If for some reason you wanted to separate and show them separately within the one form, but you still have that 1 scope, you can repeat that step and you can link that same scope multiple times. So you could have the OMS changes and the non-OMS changes shown twice and still have only 1 scope selected. So that is also possible, but do not select additional scope. So that's not the purpose of how this should be used. So there may be fee impact. So but if you are unsure, again, I'm happy to help with the specific scenario. So you can send an email or raise a ticket through service desk. So I hope that responds. So
Thank you.
stop sharing.
Okay, so let's go back to the list of questions. The next one is for MRP and DCP, so mutually recognized and decentralized procedure. We use to prepare a form template for common information. Then affiliates, contractors fills in the appropriate information depending on their country. Is it possible to do this with the PLM portal?
Well, yes and no. So for the time being, we of course only have the centrally authorized products in the form. So from that point of view, unfortunately, no, not yet possible at all, because we will have the NAPS release later this year. So hopefully in the beginning of Q2. Second point, why this use of what you call there as a template would be more difficult is because the very first step when you're creating a new form, you would choose your marketing authorization holder. Again, if it is a template so that there are different affiliates, they would most likely have different marketing authorization holder that needs to be selected in the very first step. So that is not yet possible. We are fully aware that this is quite a common approach, and we're looking at different ways to address that. We're also looking at different copy functions to make it easier, but this could be indeed a case where ways of working will have to be adapted to adjust to the use of the new form, because it cannot be filled in the same way as the current interactive PDF, where some common parts can be shared. Because the very, very first step here is that demands the MAH information, and you can't move forward without that, and then that would prevent the sharing of the form. But we're looking at different ways to address that, and that we will of course provide details on the scenarios and training when this becomes relevant.
Thank you. Once we get the approval of a new manufacturer, for example, is this new manufacturer going to be updated automatically in XVMPD, OMS, PLM?
So for the time being, we are of course working on towards of having an automated information pushed into various systems. Currently, there is no automation from the system here. So if you are getting a new manufacturer, you should of course, prior to filling in the eAF, create that entry in OMS. So it will not automatically be created. So you can't create a new manufacturer using the eAF. But you will need to create the new manufacturer in OMS first, and then you can select that manufacturer for your variation procedure in the form.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Christina. I wanted also to maybe elaborate a bit on this question. So, for the moment, we are not changing any process. As Christina was explaining, you first need to go to OMS. You need to create, if it's not already created, you need to register the manufacturer, and then you need to say, okay, I want this manufacturer to be linked to my my product. Then you need to follow the same approaches that you have been following so far. So if you have a variation that is updating any data of your SMPC, you need to submit the data or the update to XCVMPD. So the processes that we have currently are not changing. If you have a variation, I don't know, for your ingredients, once it's approved, you need to go to XCVMPD. For manufacturers, not, because we don't have this information in XCVMPD, but you still need to follow the processes that we have currently. In the future, when we will be able to reuse the data, etc., this might change. But for the moment, processes are not changing, and you need to follow what we are doing right now.
Thank you, Marcus. Okay, next question. Are the ID numbers MPID, PCID, PMSID already correct? I noticed that some numbers didn't follow the specification. So this is again a question from before the Christmas break, so I don't know whether the situation has
that's for me.
changed. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, you are correct. For the moment, the only correct ID, let's say, it's the PMS ID. MPIDs are not fully correct, and we are working on that. And also PCIDs, I don't know if actually if we have them. Because the thing is, to generate the PCIDs, we need to have a specific information on packages that we currently don't have, because we don't have this data neither in SciAmet or in XCVMPD. That's why we are not able to generate the PCIDs. So you can trust on the PMSID because these are correct. For the rest of them, don't use them for the moment, because even we don't have them, or they are not correct. For example, MPID is not following the correct structure that we should follow.
Thank you, Marcus. I have approved access and cannot log into service desk. So Joao, I've seen you also replied in writing, but maybe it will be worth sharing with the rest of participants. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. So to mention here is that if you are trying to access the service desk portal, this is independent of the eAF roles. So they are not related. So what I would suggest is that please make sure you are trying to access the newest link of the EMA service desk. The link is support.ema.europa.eu. And yeah, that would be it. So you just need your an active EMA account, and that account is registered in the EMA account management portal. So if you have any issue on the username or password, you can also go there.
Thank you. Is it correct that only the role contributor is displayed in the selection co-author of the PLM EAF?
I can take this one as well.
Yeah.
So one of the first steps when you create a new application form is the possibility to add a co-author, so that you can do adding a colleague from your own organization or from other organizations by adding an email in that case. What is important to know is that if you are adding a co-author, so if you are, let's say, requesting some additional support when filling in that form, that co-author needs the contributor role. So in the moment you are adding a co-author, you can decide to send an automatic notification informing that user that he or she needs to request the contributor role, or you can also bilaterally inform that user that he or she has been added as co-author and that they should request the contributor role. And please note that if this user is from a different organization than yours, that user needs to request the contributor role for your organization, not of his or her organization.
Thank you, Joao. Regarding the migration of information from XCVMPD to PMS, when it is going to be performed? So Marcos, this is for you.
So as Christina was saying, this is one part of the data release that is planned for the end of March. So yeah, it's planned for March. We will provide more information on specific dates, but the idea is that we will be able to do that by the end of this quarter.
Thank you. Okay, we have two questions more, so we'll try to address them. We understand post-approval, MIH organization will be updated in XVMPD and it will be synchronized in PMS, but manufacturers are not XVMPD relevant fields. For the next variation, whether it will be automatically updated in DADI. I don't know, Marcos.
Yeah, maybe I can start, and I think the second
Yeah.
part is for Christina. So post-approval, the MA holder organization is updated in XMPD by the MA holder. It's not automatically updated. So any change to MA holders, I don't know, transfers or any changes that should be reported to XMPD have to be reported by the applicant. And once this is done, it will be synchronized with PMS. So it's not that you get the approval through the DADI variation form and then it's automatically updated in XMPD. No, you have to go to XMPD and perform the update, and then it will be synchronized in PMS. And then, yeah, we don't have XMPD data. Sorry, we don't have manufacturer's data in XMPD. So, Christina, the next question is for you.
So normally details, actually even going back to the transfers, of course, if you have a transfer, we update that information for the time being in SciMed, and then SciMed is updated, and from SciMed, the information should go to PMS. I know there may be some slight technical issues related to at least some products that have been transferred, because I was dealing with a colleague yesterday where a transfer had been finalized, and unfortunately the old MAH details were still in PMS in the PML portal. So there may be some issues. In cases like that, please do raise a ticket because we may not automatically notice these. Again, if manufacturers are updated and it's a manufacturer's information that we hold in SciMed, we will then update that information in SciMed as a part of that procedural update, and then next time it should be updated in DADI. But of course, again, in the eAF, in the application form, you will only see the manufacturer's details in the XML. So because we don't yet have the structured data available, so you don't automatically have that information present in the form fields. And again, if the question is that do we update OMS entries based on details in the application form, we don't. So this is something that would be always on the onus of the applicant themselves. If a manufacturer's information, if there's a new manufacturer, ideally you need to create that entry in OMS and then you can select it in the form.
Thank you. Okay, last question for today. Can the co-author be also manager? Only the contributor has been mentioned. João, can you take this?
Yes. So yes, co-authors can also be managers, but please be aware of the following. If you're adding a co-author from another organization other than yours, we strongly recommend that this person has the contributor role, for the simple fact that this contributor role needs to be requested for your organization. And if that, let's say, external user has the manager role for your organization, that person can also, let's say, create a new application form for your organization, can also be or see your product data, and for confidentiality reasons, you should be careful. So in a nutshell, if you are adding a co-author from your organization, that person can have the contributor or the manager role. If you want to add a co-author from another organization, please stick to the contributor role.
Thank you very much, João. So since we have approached now the end of the session, I'm launching a poll. You can participate using the same code, and it is very short. We are asking you to vote how likely are you to recommend these Q&A sessions, and there is also an open text box where you can leave us your feedback on your experience with the new eAFs and the PLM portal. So any feedback is being collected by the team, and we are looking at it really closely in order to understand how we can improve in the future. So feel free to drop there your suggestions and ideas. Christina, and over to you for the closing. We have a couple of appointments that we would like to mention. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina, and thank you for all the participants, and thank you for my colleagues for the good answers. So we are organizing another Q&A clinic on the 24th of January, and we will then also have planned for the 2nd of February a more detailed training on how to fill in different sections of the forms. So this is a very similar session that has been organized in the past immediately after the go live, and we also had one in December. So we try and do these trainings and Q&A clinics regularly, so you're always have a session to join with your questions. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you.